welcome to the third episode of What's Your Wheelhouse? I'm your host, Megan Bauer, head of customer success at Spinwheel, and I'm joined today by Carlos Caro. We're excited to have him on board today. So, Carlos, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, Megan, thanks for having me. Excited to be here on the show. Um, I'm the founder of New Market Growth and the free toaster. New Market Growth is an agency that helps lenders build affiliate marketing programs, and the free toaster is an industry newsletter geared towards marketers in the industry. And we're starting to build out an events business alongside our media as well.
Love it. How'd you come up with the name Free Toaster?
Free toast. That was my business partner Nick. So he proposed it in the very early days. It's been probably 2 years since he proposed it, and I immediately caught the reference. It was when banks used to like promote free toasters in like probably direct mail or
Hmm.
through branches. So like the way they would incentivize people to apply for products was free toasters was the incentive. Today it's miles and points and all this other stuff, but back then it was toaster. So it's kind of a vintage nod at where the industry started.
The irony of that is I'm actually in the market for a toaster, so I need some old school marketing to get me
And
a.
then double irony is we don't actually hold any stock of toasters. Maybe we should, but I could see us one day like doing really cool vintage with our logo.
I love it. I love it. Well, Carlos, thank you for joining us today. We're excited to have you. Know you're an expert in many areas, but your wheelhouse specifically is affiliate marketing, and that's what we're here to chat about today. So, from your perspective, what should people understand about this right now that they probably do not?
Oh, that's there's a lot to that question. I'll I'll first frame up what I see from like the macro side of things, and then I'll hit some kind of maybe things people should be thinking about that they usually don't. But from a high level perspective, banks and fintechs are spending $6 billion a year, and that's my estimate. There's no public there's no authority here. But I'll go look at public filings. So like what's Credit Karma saying, NerdWallet, LendingTree, etc. So there's a few public names that report out their revenues, and that's how I get a sense for how much banks spend in the category. But if you compare the 6 billion a year to the 2 billion a year happening in direct mail, which is probably another large category where banks spend money, so it's 3 times the size of direct mail. It's been steadily growing for the last 10 years. And reliably, for most lenders, it's a source of like really high ROI accounts. So that's kind of the thing to know at a global level. I think the thing for lenders that they often miss is it seems really simple to do affiliate marketing at a glance, right? So like it seems like you sign a couple deals with partners, you tell them something about your offer, you give them an affiliate link, and then you just kind of go disappear and let it rain accounts. And that's not actually how it works in practice. It's actually one of the most actively managed channels in my opinion. And the reason it's so active is you have to be on offense. It's a competitive dynamic. So when an affiliate publisher lists your offer, they're usually listing 10 or 15 other offers like yours. So you have to win the consumer's attention by standing out in some fashion. So those are kind of like the product and pricing dimensions. And then from a marketing perspective, your funnel has to be really, really low friction, meaning your application rate, your approval rate, your click rate. The better your funnel looks, the more money the publisher makes as a result of promoting your offer. And then a lot of good things start to happen when you're monetizing well for the publisher. You'll earn better placements, you'll go up in the rankings. That in turn will earn you more qualified applicants. So there's like a feedback loop here of when you do well, you tend to do better. And then there's another feedback loop here of when you're not doing well, you tend to do worse because your ranking drops. And then there's kind of a doom loop dimension to it. So I think a lot of lenders that are new to the space don't realize how dynamic this is and like how many feedback loops are involved.
Yeah. How would you make yourself stand out then in such a competitive landscape? Like what works well, what doesn't? I mean, you touched upon some things, but
Yeah, no, it's that's where there's like a lot of creativity, I think, in the space. What I see lenders do most of the time, they'll they'll differentiate themselves either in the offer itself, right? So they'll try to bring something more compelling or unique. Um, if we're talking credit cards, it could be like the value proposition. So the credit cards that are most often in the news these days are like these really high-end rewards cards with like lounge access and points and all this stuff like that. So in that category, you're really differentiating yourself on like benefits, features, prestige, exclusivity, that sort of stuff. For more mainstream credit cards, you may want to just differentiate yourself on like the sign-up bonus or the rewards rate, or something like that. I hear issuers right now, for example, talking about designing products that are leaning into saving money on gas. That's been in the news. People are paying more than they're used to on gas. So issuers, I think, are very aware of like what consumers are paying attention to financially, and then they'll try to design products to serve them. On the other dimension, I think a really smart differentiator I've seen some lenders go after is finding underserved audiences and creating products that can deliver for that underserved market. A really classic example of this is like people with low credit scores. So in the industry, like subprime users, um, about 20% of them, I would say, get access to unsecured offers. And we're talking FICOs between like 560 and 660. So if a lender can say for that remaining 80%, if they can say, well, I have like incremental data or I know something about that audience or I have something unique about my underwriting process that can help me bring unsecured lending to that audience, that's usually very attractive for the marketplaces because it helps them monetize inventory that they wouldn't have otherwise monetized. So it's usually one of those two things, like product or access, which I would call underwriting. Although the third option is just like have a plain vanilla thing, but just execute the crap out of it. Have everything be amazing, right? Your digital experience is amazing, your ad is amazing, and just kind of nailing all the fundamentals. Um, that doesn't feel like a differentiated strategy, but when you go out and you study what everyone's doing, it's actually fairly rare to see a lender that's just knocking it out on all those fronts. So that's an option for a bank that might just have like a plain vanilla type of product.
Yeah, we call it the KISS method, right? Keep it
Yeah.
simple, you know?
Yeah, no, that's it. It actually works.
Yeah, I mean we deal with stuff like that all the time. Our whole goal is like reducing friction, right? And so your comment of it seems pretty simple and obvious, but it's not executed as either broadly or as well across the board, but it makes the experience so easy and like that's what brings people back at times. So totally. Yeah. Okay, do you think there's any like missed opportunities out there that people are ignoring? Maybe outside of the plain vanilla one?
Oh, missed opportunities within the context of affiliate marketing or outside?
Within the concept of affiliate marketing.
Yeah, I mean the most common missed opportunity, and I would broadly categorize this. This probably lives a lot within like regional banks, credit unions, that category. I think that category underestimates how much work the channel could do for them. That they tend to assume that they can't compete against the Big Ten players. They tend to assume that if they get in these marketplaces, they're going to lose, that they're going to get adverse select. Um, and that's certainly a possibility if you don't execute well. So it's not that that's not possible, those kinds of outcomes. Um, but what they're not realizing is a lot of these platforms let you target based on first party data. So for example, if you're a regional bank, let's say your footprint's in like the Midwest. You're in Ohio and you're in some of the states in the Midwest. You can go to one of these marketplaces and say, hey, here's my customer list, and I want to do a special product for people in my bank footprint. And actually, even further, if someone holds more than $10,000 in their checking, um, I know they're lower risk. I know they're going to perform as a credit customer. So you can actually do really custom things for folks you know are highly qualified, and you can do it within your bank footprint. So that's like really targeted competition. So that isn't that isn't the same as, hey, let me go up against Amex on a nationwide program. But could you beat Amex in like a few zip codes or many zip codes in your home state of Ohio? Probably, because your brand recognition may actually be stronger than Amex, given where people bank. So I think regionals and credit unions kind of lose sight of that. So I actually think that's a pretty big missed opportunity.
Yeah, finding your niche a little bit there. I mean, I'm in a small town in Maine, and like that's very relatable up here, is people a lot of times like a more local or regional brand than they would a larger institution. So,
Yeah,
um,
no, and there's just like some like really natural like customer benefit to that. Like if you hold a credit card with your local bank, you can actually do stuff like when you're in there to like cash a check, you could just say, "Hey, can you just pay off my credit card?" Like there's all like there's little special customer service type things. They're like non-trivial that are easy to do in a branch if you're gonna walk in versus nobody likes to be put on hold and like with customer service moving AI, people are even a little bit more worried about, hey, am I talking to a robot? Am I talking to a human? So again, with the regionals and the credit unions, they can actually really lean into the some of those strengths.
yeah, yeah. A lot of times people also just want things to be resolved as like quickly as possible and as easy as possible. And so there's that luxury a little bit too, and you have that more personal connection sometimes. So. You kind of touched upon this a little bit, but in terms of maybe what people are maybe not getting wrong, but what are they not thinking about? But like, what do you think is the silliest thing you've heard about the affiliate marketing space?
I hear a lot of silly things. The silly one of the sillier things I heard recently, and it's not the first time I've heard it. When someone tells me the channel doesn't work, I always just kind of chuckle. Um, it's like saying billboards don't work, TV ads don't work, newspaper ads don't like you could have that categorization at the high level. Um, or it's easy to think that if you tried it and it failed. But usually the reason something fails in affiliate marketing is the execution of the program. So if you go in and you have the wrong offer, the wrong funnel, the wrong underwriting, yes, that will fail with a high likelihood, but that doesn't mean the channel is bad. That means that specific execution of the channel was bad. But there are still lenders I find and I speak with that had a bad experience 3, 4, 5 years ago. And they actually don't even know the full details of how it was implemented. And then they come to me saying, "Oh yeah, we've tried marketing on name your favorite marketing platform, and that platform sucks, it doesn't work." And I always kind of I approach that with A, empathy, because I've seen what that feels like. I've been behind programs that haven't worked. Um, but I guess what I'll leave lenders with that haven't tried this or have had bad experiences is that there's usually misses in the execution that led to that bad outcome. It usually wasn't the platform, it was like the specific implementation. So like I find that a little bit funny when I hear it.
Yeah, kind of leaving some things on the table there too, if you're not willing to go back and try again or really
Yeah.
evaluate what went wrong, and how you could do better in the future. Because there's a lot of people who are probably using it highly effectively. So.
Yeah, it's at $6 billion and it's growing, so it's probably working for somebody.
Something's going right somewhere. Absolutely. Um, okay, so what's that's kind of the silliest thing. What are some of the biggest challenges that folks are facing with right now in the affiliate marketing space?
So I th there's some evergreen challenges I would say. The evergreen challenges are like model alignment, so making sure the model you underwrite with on the back end. So like when you run a hard inquiry, it's the same model you're using on the front end when you initially select who's going to see the ad. So that's really important. That's an evergreen problem. That probably never goes away. Maybe AI helps a little bit over time. Um, what other evergreen problems do I see? Application experiences. And Megan, I hope this one, I know Spinwheel thinks about this one a lot, but I still see way too much friction in these funnels. Like people are asking for more information than they need. And when I say people, I mean lenders. They're asking for um, documents they don't necessarily need. They're asking questions they don't necessarily need. And it just create like the more steps, the more drop off usually is what I find. So that tends to be an evergreen problem. I have a little bit of hope that with agents becoming more normal and people shopping with agents and AI, um, will that'll be a thing of the past. But I suspect humans shopping for financial products isn't going anywhere anytime soon. I think this is a category that may be slow to latch on to like agentic type commerce. Um, I think brand questions are always a challenge. Specifically right now, I think that like a really relevant challenge people are facing is how they deal with the search channel because it's just changing so fast. So you see this show up with like NerdWallet when they talk about their earnings. They're a public company. They're always commenting on their headwinds, what's going well, and their card business, for example, it's been down 50% since the peak about 2 years ago. And a big reason for that is search volumes are way down. So they relied on like Google Blue Link traffic. So people would search like best rewards card, they would see a NerdWallet article, they would click through, and once they're on the article, they could like refer to different lenders. So that they had kind of this arbitrage on SEO for many, many years. And that's a thing of the past. Like now people are going into Claude and ChatGPT, asking their specific question, getting answers and leaving, right? They're not having to click through to go to any website. So that affiliate marketing move is kind of a thing of the past. It might be replaced by another one in the LLMs. But I know the publishers are really struggling with that right now. And from a lender side, it's just getting more and more competitive in search because what's happening is the publishers that used to get traffic through SEO are now going to SEM to buy back the traffic that they lost. So now it's like the publishers and the lenders like bidding against each other in that auction. And two problems there. The auction's smaller because there's fewer people searching in Google. So smaller pool and the per click prices have gone up materially. So like now the ROIs of the channel have come down on a unit basis. So it's kind of a double whammy there in search. And I think the industry is still adjusting to that.
Do you have any, insights into what an alternative is or where that will go to, how it will evolve and change if search is a thing of the past?
Yeah, no, I think no one's gonna stop searching on the internet. So I don't think search is dead per se as like a consumer behavior. I think it's just changing. Like um, designing websites so that your blue link ranks on like the top 10 on page one of Google. I think that's the thing that's over and that's misguided. Um, but there will never be a lack of demand for great content, for great brands. The way those brands will get discovered, I think, will change. So you're gonna have to figure out how to convince the LLMs to surface your stuff. But I don't think that's anything different than just like marketing fundamentals, right? Like put good content out there, help people have great testimonials, have great, um, you know, social media presence. I think all these things probably do play out to the outcome of being discovered in the LLMs. But I think the thing many lenders haven't done that I would encourage them all to do is to build first party media. And I think that's something I see many lenders not used to investing in. So they're used to buying ads probably in mail, search, and affiliates. Those are probably the main channels. A little bit of social too, like Facebook, etc. Now they're gonna have to learn how to build their own newsletter, how to build their own YouTube channels, how to build their own potentially TV shows. I don't quite exactly know what that mix should be from a lender's first party content, but I don't see a ton of brands that really lean heavy into first party content, and I suspect in the future it's going to be more important.
Okay, so you touched upon this a little bit, Carlos, with talking about agents in the past, and two things. One, people will probably be adopting them more, but you also don't see like the consumers not necessarily searching for things on their own or looking stuff up, or kind of fully giving up that financial control, if you will, to an agent, right? But how do you see AI changing the area of this business, not just like in theory, but in practice?
Yeah, there's one particular thing I've kind of dawned on me really recently, and it's combining. I actually wrote about it in our newsletter. So if you haven't checked out our newsletter, it's at thefreetoaster.com that you can find the article. But basically, where we were, what we were, yeah, product plug. Might as well drop it in, right?
Love it.
Um, The idea was there was a headline probably 2 weeks ago where ChatGPT announced that they're gonna for their pro users. So these are folks that spend I think $200 plus on the paid service. They're gonna allow people to pull in all their bank transactions through Plaid. So all your card transactions, all your bank transactions. So you can basically ingest them into the LLM, and then the LLM can help you with whatever, right? Person like help me with budgeting. How much did I spend on gas last month? Given I drive more in the summer, how much should I budget for like summer, like stuff like
Hmm.
stuff that would usually require like spreadsheets and like hunkering down in front of your laptop to get really good answers. Now you just fire up ChatGPT and you put it in voice mode and just literally ask whatever question, and you're getting a very personalized answer specific to you because it sees all your transactions. So I think this is going to change personal finance in a pretty meaningful way. Whether ChatGPT will be the product people use, that I don't know. But the concept of I hit a button, I ingest all my transactions, and now I have this really smart assistant that can answer very, very specific and granular questions about my specific situation. I think that's a very natural place for lenders and banks to be recommending products that serve that specific person's goal, right? So, like an example might be this is the one I gave in the newsletter of the LLM notices that you spent $10,000 last year flying on United. And it says, hey, I noticed that you're using, the Chase Freedom card. Did you know if you use the United card, you'd be earning this many more rewards and this much more status, and this like really makes sense if you're going to continue to travel at this level or more. Or and the consumer's like, oh, that's actually makes a lot of sense. And then the engine goes a little bit further and says, and because I know a lot about you, and because I'm tapped into other lenders, um, I happen to know if you applied for that product, you would be approved. Do you want that card? And you could say yes, and forget the applications, forget going to a lender's page. They just say, you're approved, done. Card's gonna be in the mail in the next 2 days. Like that could all happen in an LLM. Like we have the technology today to make that happen. That's not some fictional state. Um, but where I think this, to your question on what opportunities, the thing that's emerging now is cash flow based lenders used to have a really hard time having cash flow information at the marketing stage. So like the old model for cash flow based lenders, is they have to serve an ad in a market, like say in a Credit Karma, customer would click through, and then in the application page, they'd have to ask the customer, "Hey, can you link Plaid so I can run underwriting?" That's just a lot of friction. For a consumer to give you Plaid at that point in the funnel, it requires a lot of trust. It's usually the drop-off rates are extremely high. But if you've already granted that access to ChatGPT or another LLM, it's done. Now the lender can plug in, see the data with the right integrations. They can pre-approve you, and when you click the button, like the card just happens. So I think cash flow based lending is going to get a lot more interesting. I think it's going to scale dramatically, and the good news for consumers is folks that were previously overlooked, like they weren't getting the best possible cards um, due to their credit score only, might now qualify for much better stuff if they're willing to give or if they're willing to hand over the cash flow data to the lender and to the LLM.
Yeah. Um, I'm curious. I mean, you gave some examples of this, but like, does this enhance people's financial literacy? Does it allow folks to just give them more specialized options? Will we see maybe debt trends going down if they have better recommendations? I mean, I feel like there's so many different ways there could be so many different snowball effects of outcomes. It could be
Yeah,
all of them. It's hard to know a little bit.
it's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to think financial literacy improves as a result because now it's easier. Actually, it depends how you define financial literacy. Um, there could be a world where stuff like this improves financial outcomes for people because now they're getting good recommendations on what to do. But I think of financial literacy as like do you are you educated on like the fundamentals of like what it takes to like build good credit and to save and invest, et cetera, et cetera? Like, do you know like the theory and can you execute it? In a world of like an LLM giving you advice, you don't necessarily need to have any education whatsoever, right? You could just blindly trust the LLM to give you good advice. And so long as you execute it, you could have really, really fantastic outcomes. So I'd like to think the outcomes will improve, assuming people take the advice. Um, but human nature's weird, so like who knows if we're actually going to get that outcome. I mean, a lot of people are worried, at least in an educational context, that like literacy like gets worse because now they're delegating their thinking to an LLM.
Yep.
Um, so I think there's probably both sides of that story at play, and I don't, but I tend to be optimistic with technology, so I think this stuff will help people once it matures.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Yeah. Okay, well, this is great. Love learning about affiliate marketing and all of that you have to share related to it. However, we also have an arguably more fun question at times. What is your non-business wheelhouse right now? What's your
Yeah.
personal
Well,
wheelhouse?
right now and for probably for the last 20 years, it's been poker.
All right, tell me more.
Yeah. So I started playing probably right outside of college, like right when I finished college. This was probably 2003, so I'm dating myself. Um, but it started out just kind of playing with friends, and um, then it just started. There was a casino like near. I was in the Boston area, so there was a casino probably within like an hour and a half drive from where I was.
Oh, I know that casino well.
Foxwoods.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one I went to. There's a couple. There's Mohegan. There's a couple others.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, so I started playing a little bit live, but mostly online. And what was interesting about online is you could play for like very, very small stakes. You could play for like $1, $2, $10, like whatever. And you can get a lot of hands and a lot of practice in like a very short amount of time. So I got pretty interested in the game, read a ton of books, like all the books I could get my hands on. And I just found it to be this really interesting mix of some quantitative stuff like statistics, math. I was a math major, so that really appealed to me. But there was also as I played more, I found how strong the psychology dimension of the game was. Not just with reading other people, but with like balancing like my own psychology and like staying poised like when things weren't going well and things like that. So those were kind of the initial things that got me interested in the game.
So you see a lot of parallels between poker and just kind of business, entrepreneurship, how you operate in the professional world, things like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Probably, definitely with business. But as an entrepreneur, it's I'm very thankful I have like the poker background. Um, and kind of preparing for our chat today, Megan, I wrote down like 20 things. I was like, I went a little bit, but I'm like, there's no way I'm going to talk about the 20 things. Um, but I'll give you a few things I think are like really critical to my success as an entrepreneur that I actually picked up in poker and have been like seasoning and kind of practicing for a while. So the first one is like dealing with adversity and setbacks. Um, any entrepreneur is going to tell you it's like way more failures than it is successes. I found that to be true as an entrepreneur. And the interesting thing about poker is you can make the right play over and over again and get the wrong outcome over and over again. It's a very cruel game.
Vicious.
If you've ever watched it on TV, you know probably what I'm talking about here. Um, but that started wiring my brain in a really, I think, constructive way because I started to separate process and input from result. And in the business world, I think we're way too obsessed with result. Did the meeting go well? Did the customer buy the thing? Like we're so obsessed with like our KPIs and our OKRs and all this stuff where we're obsessed around performance. Okay. And what I learned in poker is I can't control the result. The result is completely out of my hands. What I can control is the input. I can control my preparation. I can control how I play. I can control the quality of my decisions. And I learned to unpack those two things. So decision quality and outcome, independent things. But the other nice thing about poker, which is the same in entrepreneurship, if you have the right process and the right mindset, and you do that over and over and over again for years, decades, the results will be amazing if you can ride out the long term. And I think too many entrepreneurs I talk to like want to be successful in 3 months or in a year or in like some arbitrary timeline they come up with. And poker teaches you that a lot of life is like not up to you. So I think that was a big one. Um, do we have time to go longer or?
Well, I'm going to tell my boss no more OKRs and KPIs. So if you have some more, insights for me, I can
I
relay.
mean, I honestly think it's one of the worst things we do in the business world, to be quite honest. And I appreciate like we need to have goals, but like sometimes KPRs and OKRs can just be counterproductive in my opinion. But that's another like sidebar we could take at a different time. Um, I'll hit you with two more like very quickly. Um, just kind of poker taught me how to like regulate my emotional state and like my nervous system. And I was able to quickly figure out over time that the number one factor in whether or not I was going to win was like how regulated I was at the table. Like how chill and calm and cool could I be? Even when things were just going like couldn't have been going like more crap, right? Like everything's going against me, nothing's working. Those are the moments where you just kind of need to chill and remember that if you let what's happening and right in front of you affect your decision making, things will get worse, not better. So that's like to me, it's like I always think when I play poker, I always view it as I'm training my nervous system. And I don't hope for things to go bad, but when they do, that's when you really get your training. That's when you put in your reps. Because then you get to test yourself, like, can I still make the same quality decision when I'm not feeling good as I am when I'm feeling good? And that's 100% relevant in entrepreneurship. Like it's just you're tested probably every week, every month, something goes bad, and then well, how do you react to that? Right? Can you still make a high quality decision in the face of adversity? So that was a big one for me personally. And then the last one is just so much of the success in the game is your prep off the table. And you would think this is about like studying the game and the strategies and like things like that. And oddly, a lot of it's like, how well do you sleep? How well do you eat? How centered and calm and focused are you? That's all off-table prep. Because if you're not well rested and you're not well fed and you're not feeling good, it all manifests into, because it's like a very, um, at least for me, I find it to be very like cognitively demanding, the game. And if I'm not physically in my best form, I see the difference in my results because like and the way I know that is I'll write what I did in like a given big situation. It's like while it's fresh, I'll do like a voice memo or I'll write it down. And then when I'm really feeling good the next day, I'm sharp and I'll look at what I did. I'm like, what? How on earth did I play that situation? And that like you can just very clearly see the difference, like what you would have done had you been more rested. So, and I think that same thing applies to business.
Okay, you're giving me so many good tidbits, but I'm gonna ask you one final question. Like, as a novice, as someone who has never played poker, definitely
Yep.
not professionally, I know how to play to a basic extent, but like, what's your
Yep.
one piece of advice for a new person getting into poker?
Oh, new, like brand new to the game?
Yeah.
Okay. Brand new to the game, I would say what like the biggest failure mode for most new players is they play too many hands. So let's say we're talking no limit hold'em.
Yeah.
No limit hold'em, I would like there are certain charts you can look at that say, hey, for this level of game, let's say it's 8 players at the table, that's pretty normal in like a casino environment. Like when you're in the first position to the left of the blinds, like you should be playing very, very tight, probably like the top 5% of hands. Like pair of nines plus, ace jack suited plus, like stuff like that. By the time you get to the button and it's folded to you, you're probably playing like 45% of hands. Queen five suited, kings eight offsuit, stuff like that. So, but if you start with a foundation of the wrong hand to enter a pot, those errors compound really fast in Hold'em. So that would be like the number one leak I would plug is like hand selection. And then probably the number two one is like player profiling. Like having a really good archetype for who's in the hand with you and what their most common like mistakes are. Like, do they fold too much? Do they call too much? Like, what's the thing they do too much of? And usually in poker, you try to do the opposite of that. So like, they fold too much, great. You put more pressure on them, you bluff them more. They call too much, you probably stop bluffing and more value bets. So like, those two things put together can make someone that's like maybe okay or new into like actually pretty dangerous pretty fast.
You exploit their weaknesses on those ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, poker's a game of exploiting mistakes. So if you don't have a good idea in your head what your opponent's mistakes are, you're probably at the wrong game.
All
You should
right.
probably change tables.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate this advice here. I don't know if I'm going to be an expert on poker tables in Vegas anytime soon, but there's some things to learn for sure. So, Carlos, thank you so much for joining us today. It was so great to hear from you on affiliate marketing, but also learning more about poker and kind of how that helps prepare you and I'm sure others for the business world. So, thanks for joining.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, Megan.